Great. Thank you, Megan, and thank you everyone for joining us on how to operate a cleaner and more efficient transit fleet. I'm Andrew Conley with Clean Fuels Ohio. I'll be your MC today. Just wanted to preview the agenda that we'll be going over. So today we'll be giving a little welcome and intro to Clean Fuels Ohio, ROUSH, and the Charlevoix fleet, who will be giving us a success story here. So then ROUSH will go into their CleanTech options for shuttle and transit fleets. We'll hear from Charlevoix, who's a transit shuttle operator in Michigan, about some of their fleet success. I'll come back in and talk about, oh, that says EV, I'm sorry about that. I'll talk about propane grants and incentives, and then we'll do some Q&A to answer any of your questions. On the introduction side, I mentioned that I'm Andrew Conley with Clean Fuels Ohio. We are a nonprofit based here in Ohio, focusing on transportation solutions. Our goal is to work on all the commercially available cleaner fuel and efficiency technology solutions in the market today. But we're excited to partner with ROUSH and bring you some propane, autogas focused solutions in this webinar today. For our services, we do provide a lot of services to fleets. That includes analysis and planning services. We really dig in and help fleets analyze their current vehicle operations and understand the operational, economic, and environmental benefits of solutions that are available today. We help fleets obtain funding. We do direct grant writing and provide resources to assist fleets with grant writing to obtain these fuels and technologies. We do training like the one today, as well as deeper dive trainings. We had recently an initiative called Safe Gas Garage that focused on natural gas, propane, and hydrogen options and how and what you need to do for your fuel facilities and maintenance garages. And the good news with propane is it's already structured in the code like gas and diesel, so you don't really have to do any changes. So it's one of the more efficient options here. And then we do have a green fleet recognition program for fleets that have deployed a number of vehicles. And we do have a number of transits and school districts and others in the state who have deployed a number of propane vehicles and been recognized in our free Ohio Green Fleets program. So that's just a little bit about Clean Fuels Ohio. And from here, I'd like to turn it over to Adam Wilcom on the ROUSH team to brief us on the options that ROUSH CleanTech has for transit operators. Adam?
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that introduction this morning, and welcome everybody. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to participate in this webinar. I think that the information here that we're going to share is going to be worth your time for sure. I know most of you on the line that are listening in today are probably familiar with ROUSH CleanTech. You may have heard our name. Certainly, probably are familiar with propane autogas as an option for a fleet. And if you're not, well, we're going to go through some information today that you'll probably find pretty interesting. And Jill from Charlevoix, who's going to share her story after I go through my slides here. She's got a great success story, and she's had an experience like many fleets have had with propane autogas, saving money, reducing emissions, and getting access to all those great grant funding opportunities that are out there. So if you're not familiar with ROUSH CleanTech, we were founded in 2010. We're a relatively new company. We are part of a larger automotive engineering firm, much broader than just automotive, but ROUSH Industries, where we do really world-class testing and validation for many industries, whether it be building roller coasters for Disney, or making rocket parts for SpaceX, or just doing testing and validation for all the major auto manufacturers. We are an engineering firm, and that's really why we've been able to develop a propane autogas fuel system that's worked much better than anything else that was out there previously. We're not just in propane autogas. We do have an EV focus as well. We just launched our first battery electric F650 truck that's currently operating in California. But we do propane is such a great fit for paratransit specifically because of the mileage needed every day and the duty cycle. It's a tough duty cycle. The buses, I don't need to, not delivering any news today, but they run a lot of miles and they're needed in service every day. So the EV options that are out there for the E450 and the E350 chassis right now just really aren't that great from a range perspective. So propane can really fill a need right now with lower tailpipe emissions and cost savings. All of our chassis are Altoona tested and Buy America compliant. And we have a unique relationship with Ford, which allows us to upfit these chassis to run on propane from day one. So it's not a conversion. This is a dedicated propane fuel system, and it carries all the Ford factory warranties with it, which is definitely unique for an alternative fuel system. Like I mentioned, here at ROUSH CleanTech, we've got a long background with alternative fuels, whether it be hydrogen, autonomous vehicles for Google. We have built some electric vehicles for some of our partners in the past. Like I mentioned, we just launched our own electric vehicle, but we're certainly not new to that space. But as I kind of keep going back to, the propane solution in certain duty cycles is really a great fit. And it kind of goes beyond the range restrictions that are in place for EV right now. If you're not familiar with propane, it really is a widely used fuel. It's kind of in Europe, it's extremely common. It's the third most common fuel in the world behind gasoline and diesel. And it's got a 100-year, background in automotive. And actually, with the way a lot of people are surprised by this, but with the way power is generated in the United States currently, it actually has a lower carbon footprint than EV in 45 of the 50 states. So it is extremely clean burning. We use it when we're cooking food. It has a lot of benefits. We've done really well with the propane auto gas here at ROUSH CleanTech. Like I mentioned before, we've kind of created this fuel system that's worked better than anybody has done it in the past. It's not a biofuel system. It's a dedicated propane auto gas fuel system. We're up over 37,000 vehicles on the road now, many of those operating in paratransit applications. You can see here by our map, it's coast to coast, northern Alaska down to the tip of Florida. We run in all climates and all duty cycles. We really, we've proven this product reliable again and again. It's something that fleets depend on every day, and people depend on to get where they're going. I mentioned we have this QVM relationship with Ford. What this allows us to do is put a propane fuel system on a Ford product, whether it be E450, F550, and then it carries that Ford warranty with that propane auto gas fuel system. So if you have a Ford dealer in your backyard that you like working with, you can take this vehicle to them, and the propane fuel system is covered right along with the engine and other components on the vehicle. So really unique in this space. We're the only people to have this out there. So it's something that we really can depend on from a service standpoint after the vehicle purchase. This is what it looks like on the cutaway chassis. So as I mentioned before, we do E350, E450, F550 in transit applications. So we have this propane fuel system. We replace where the gasoline tank would go. We have these liquid propane tanks. They're 64 usable gallons. So you have a similar range as gasoline. You really don't have to sacrifice there. Fuel fill is very similar to gasoline as far as the transfer rate. And it's a great system. It works very much like a gasoline system. From a maintenance standpoint, there really are no differences besides one filter that you have to change every 50,000 miles. So I mentioned before, these are built to run on propane from day one. So Ford equips these engines with a gaseous prep package. So they have hardened valves and valve seats inside the engine to withstand the higher temperatures of propane. That's why the engines are just as reliable as anything you would put on the road that runs on gasoline. So from a long-term longevity standpoint, there's really no sacrifice there either. On the emission side, we really excel. This is one point of pride that we have here at ROUSH CleanTech, the fact that we're able to put a vehicle out there on the road that doesn't cost a exorbitant amount of money up front, and really make a solid impact in communities through lower tailpipe emissions. We have extremely great numbers on NOx and some of these other categories. Ford just put this new 7.3 liter engine on the road a couple years back. And one thing we're really proud of is it replaced the 6.8 liter V10, and now we're able to get better and lower CO2 numbers with this new engine, which is going to be an increasingly important emissions category as we go forward as far as grant funding. So we're proud of that, and we're happy that we're able to provide that lower greenhouse gas emissions with this new Ford engine. As I mentioned before, with regards to maintenance, there's no sacrifice. So as far as fluids, spark plugs, with propane, you have all these same components that you would have on your gasoline engine. The preventive maintenance is the same. So you change the oil every 5,000 miles, just like you would on a gasoline engine. The drivers, they won't know the difference, that other than fueling the bus, which is a seamless process as well. They won't know that they're driving a propane vehicle. So very, very reliable from that standpoint. With regards to our fuel tanks, so these fuel tanks are extremely robust. They're Altoona tested. They last the life of the vehicle. We test them to 4 times the working pressure. So normally inside these tanks, you would have about 200 PSI on an average day full of propane. We actually test these things to 1,200 PSI just to make sure that there no possibility for leaks or any safety concerns there. And we do submit them to crash testing. I will say that's one thing that there's a lot of companies out there that you can buy propane conversion kits from. To my knowledge, we're the only one that submits these tanks to crash testing. So that is one thing, especially when you're talking in a transit application where you're transporting people. I feel like that is, that's an extremely important thing that we have, and something that we're also really proud of. We have cost of ownership calculators that we, if you're looking at an alternative fuel for the first time, we can kind of walk through this from a cost standpoint. Normally propane is about 50% that of gasoline. So the cost savings will come from, the fueling that the fuel that you're gonna be buying for these vehicles. They are a little more upfront, nowhere near the purchase price that you would see on an electric vehicle, but they are a little bit more upfront to purchase. But typically we see those, depending on the mileage you run, of course, we see those that incremental cost erased in 1 to 2 years, depending on the mileage. So happy to run through this exercise with anybody on the call. You can find this on our website as well. We have this. You can go plug your own numbers in and then see, what the impact of propane would be on your fleet. So it's a useful tool, especially, the fact that you can enter in the different grants that are out there, and this 36-cent per gallon rebate that's available from the federal government right now for propane auto gas. You can really, you can see here at the cost per mile at the lowest category on that spreadsheet. It's pretty significant, over half the cost of what you would see with gasoline. So it can really add up. As far as infrastructure, this is one hurdle we really see people have a lot of anxiety about, because a lot of transit agencies have experience with CNG, and CNG is a little bit hard to implement due to the shop upgrades that you have to have. The infrastructure, as far as from a fueling station, is pretty pricey upfront. But with propane, you don't have to have any special shop upgrades. You don't have to have spark arrested lighting. You don't have to have gas detection systems. You don't have to do the automatic roll-up doors. Propane will naturally settle to the lowest point. So if there was a leak inside a building, as soon as you opened a door, it would naturally, evacuate itself. So extremely safe from that standpoint. When you're talking cost on an infrastructure, to get up and running with propane, you're talking about 1/10 of what it would be for something like CNG. So relatively low cost, easy to implement, and we can obviously provide a lot more information on that if you're curious. Fueling is relatively easy. Like I said, this is a picture of a school bus fuel nozzle, but on the transit buses, they're exactly the same. So you have a quick connect coupling there that transfers at the same rate as gasoline. It's compatible with all of your fuel management systems that you're operating now, and the cost of these fueling sites can be included in the cost per gallon. If you were to partner with a company like Ferrellgas or AmeriGas, they're happy to roll the price, the capital expense of the fuel station into the price per gallon that you're paying for, 1 to 2 to 3 years. So relatively easy to get going. It's nice because it's non-toxic, non-carcinogenic. So From that standpoint, you don't have that, odor of gasoline or diesel, on your hands after you fuel the bus, which is nice. So I kind of already mentioned this, but we'll run through it again. So what the most we have out there is this E450 cutaway chassis. That's in every transit fleet out there, seems like these days. 64 usable gallons, which I measured. You can use any body on this chassis. So whether you like Goval or whether you like Champion, you can use any body. We're compatible with all of them. So we're not specific to any one manufacturer as far as that goes. But we're happy to talk about different applications that you might have or different duty cycles that you might operate these in to make sure that they're compatible. We also do the F550, so some of the higher capacity needs. San Diego runs a ton of these in their fleet, and they're really happy with how they perform and the cost savings and the environmental benefits they're getting from these F550 buses. Something that we really do a lot better than I feel like a lot in the industry is service after the sale. We really kind of go above and beyond with our support, not only with Ford, but also with the field service engineers that we have that work for ROUSH. If you have an issue with a bus, we'll send somebody on site to do diag and help you through that. And we also provide, on-site training. We do training at our facility in Livonia. We don't charge for our diagnostic software, which is a big one. There's a lot of, usually that's $1,000 a year for vehicle diagnostic capability. And that's something that we provide at no cost. So that's a real differentiator with the training and the diagnostic support that we provide after these buses are in service, that we get really positive feedback on. So with that, I know that's a lot of information in a short amount of time, but this is being recorded and you can go through and watch this again, or you can reach out to me, of course. My contact information is here. We have a ton of great information on our website, roushcleantech.com. You can go poke around on there. We've got that cost of ownership calculator and a lot of really good information, but feel free to reach out to me as well. I'm happy to, run through different scenarios with anybody. So, I'm going to turn things over to Jill Drury with Charlevoix. Jill, is it Charlevoix Public Transit? What's the official name of your operation there?
Charlevoix County Public Transit.
There we go. Well, I'll turn the screen over to you, and I'll stop my share here, and then you can take it away and share your great story that you have up there.
All right, let me just get myself to where I need to be. Sorry, guys.
No, you're fine.
The slide deck. Sorry, I don't see it here.
Yeah, Zoom can be cumbersome if you're not using it every day.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
I don't see it.
There should be a green share screen at the bottom of the window there.
Yep. I'm sorry, did you have my slides up?
Yeah, I do. I can throw
why
them up
don't
there.
you go ahead? I'm on a different computer this morning, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I've got your slides here, so I can throw them up for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You'll just have to let me know when you want me to switch it back and forth here.
Great, thanks. Well, while Adam's doing that, just a little bit of information. I'm Jill Drury. I've been with Charlevoix County Transit since July of 2011. However, my transit experience goes back to the early 1990s. So I've been around the industry for a while now. When I came up to Charlevoix, which is in the northern part of the Lower Peninsula, our fleet was made up of primarily cutaways and a few medium duty buses. And it was a mixture of both gasoline and diesel buses. Actually, we did have one battery hybrid at the time as well that had come through the ARA funding that the prior director had ordered, and we had deployed that vehicle into service. And so we had a little bit of experience with using alternative type fuels and such, but nothing extreme. Over the next few years of being involved in the program here and being very involved in attending state association events, started hearing about propane for fueling transit fleets. And of course, that sort of piqued my interest a little bit. And so we watched to see what the industry was doing. And the Flint Mass Transit program down in Flint, Michigan, really sort of led the way here in Michigan on deploying alternative fuels. So it became something that was more and more of an interest to me as time went on. By 2015, I was looking at that real heavily, and we invited a representative from ROUSH to come up and do a little demo with us and let my staff see the vehicle, drive it, feel it, and understand, you know, what it was like to have a propane vehicle. We knew that we'd have to have all of our staff on board if this was going to be something that we were going to want to do. The staff was the easy group to convince that this was something that was a viable option for us. And my board, it took a little additional work to get them to the point where they were okay with us moving from the gas and the diesel to the propane. While they liked the idea of the environmentally friendly fuel, they were worried about some of the old technology and some of the problems that there had been with the old systems, and that's all they knew. So with the help of ROUSH, we were able to provide enough information to our board and to our employees to get everybody on board, make them feel comfortable. Charlevoix, as you can see in the picture, is in northern Michigan. We have a couple large lakes in our area, so we're a very tourist-laden area. In the summer months, everybody's coming in to enjoy Lake Charlevoix, Walloon Lake, and Lake Michigan. And during the winter months, we've got folks coming into Boyne Mountain for skiing. So our area is very tourist friendly, and we just saw having the propane as a way to help our communities be, you know, more environmentally friendly. So that was the big push for us. And of course, saving money was also a big push on our behalf, you know, as a administrative team, you know, talking to our board to have, you know, part of the buy-in for this. Right now, as you can see, we're running 17 active vehicles, and of those, 14 are cutaways. And so all but one of the cutaways is that we have right now is a propane powered vehicle. We have one MV1 van, which is gas, and we have 2 passenger vans, which are gas right now. I have 3 full-size dual fuel vans or bi-fuel vans that are ordered that should be arriving here in a couple months. So we're moving closer and closer to becoming 100% alternative fuel for our agency. And we have found that this has really been a good fit for us for a number of reasons. The cost savings, the cost difference between fuel, gas and propane, we are seeing, depending on the time of the year, anywhere from 30 to 80 or 90 cents or better in the difference between the cost of gas and propane. And so that has been helpful on our budget. Adam mentioned the rebates or the tax credits that are available, that for this past fiscal year provided a $17,000 credit for us. So even with reduced travel that we saw due to COVID, we were still able to realize some savings in the form of that tax credit, which has been a great assistance to us over the past few years. And we're fingers crossed that, we'll continue to see those credits going forward. Obviously, as I mentioned, the impact on the environment is another reason why we've done that. And as you're talking to your boards or your powers to be, that's a good point. And the clean fuels folks and ROUSH members of their team can definitely help you with generating the numbers that you need for that particular bullet point when you're talking about why a switch over to propane is beneficial for a fleet. The domestic fuels obviously falls all into that as well. And then just our maintenance cost, our wear and tear on our engines and our components, we're not seeing near as many problems with our propane vehicles as we did with our gas and our diesel programs of the past. So that's been very beneficial for us, especially again with COVID right now, where we've had some staffing reductions. And right now we're running with just one mechanic, and he's been able to more than maintain the fleet without problem, due to the fact that we're just not seeing a lot of additional maintenance that needs to be done on these vehicles beyond our daily wear and tear and our normal preventative maintenance that we do. Just a bit of information about what our numbers have been in the past. Fiscal 20 was hard to gauge anything against. So fiscal 19 was more of a normal year. So that's the information that we've got regarding that, the usage that we've got, and where we were at with the number of gallons of gas and propane that we used in our fleet, and what our costs were for that. And we saw significant savings with that fuel credit over the fiscal 18 and fiscal 19 years. Adam had mentioned one thing that, earlier about the infrastructure and how some of the companies are able to help you, and that is one thing that was really important to us as we did this, because we were new to it and we didn't know where to start and where to go, and we got a lot of help from ROUSH and pointing us in the right direction. And we ultimately landed with having AmeriGas as our propane provider, and they were extremely helpful to us in setting up our original fueling system with a small tank. I think we started with just a 500 gallon or 1,000 gallon tank, and a dispenser that we were manually recording every time a bus would fuel. We were just manually recording that on a piece of paper. Since then, we've actually upgraded our facilities. So those companies that are out there that are willing to help with infrastructure are a great benefit. And for those agencies that are looking to do a program, I would certainly recommend looking for somebody that would help you build that infrastructure to your needs. A little bit of the FY20 information. Again, it was really hard to say, this is a normal year, but we still drove about 350,000 miles providing service during fiscal 20. And again, we were able to see a significant cost savings due to having the propane vehicles versus driving diesel or gas vehicles. A little bit, what we've got coming up, you know, we've got one more cutaway bus ordered. That will be a propane vehicle. Altogether, we have 4 new transits coming that are bi-fuel or dual fuel. 3 of those should be arriving in the next month or 2. The other vehicle will probably be sometime in the fall. We've actually done some improvements to our fueling station over the last 2 years. And with the help of a new grant that we have through our rural task force, we're going to be putting a canopy over our fueling station to help protect our fueling station and infrastructure, as well as the drivers and the vehicles from the elements as they're fueling. Another thing that we're looking at doing is oil sampling. So we've got a couple of things going for us here over the next year or 2 with our propane system. You know, going back to the infrastructure, we started out with just that smaller tank and the manual recording of all of our mileage and the number of gallons that we're using. And 2 years ago, we went to a new system, a larger tank and a fueling system where we can fuel from both sides of the dispenser, and it's all automated so that we're capturing all of that information at the dispenser and bringing it into a program from Superior Energy Systems. So that's been real helpful to us as we've increased the number of vehicles that we have on propane. Having that more automated system has made a huge difference for us. Our partners, you know, really have been ROUSH CleanTech and AmeriGas, but also our vendor and the state of Michigan. We're fortunate in Michigan that we have been able to do most of our vehicles as we're replacing vehicles through grants for that versus paying, you know, through our local funds. And so that has made it much easier for us to be able to look at alternative fuels, whether it be a propane or some agencies in Michigan are using CNG, and now a lot of agencies are looking at EV. And without having those grants to help cover, you know, the additional cost of having those types of fuel systems on board, I'm not sure that as many agencies would be in the position that they're at now, where they've been able to do what they're doing with these programs. So, you know, we're very fortunate, and I'm very thankful that MDOT has taken a lead on through the process of purchasing vehicles. They spec out all these vehicles for us, and they've provided the alternative fuels on our grants and our contracts so that agencies have that option to choose that type of a fueling system on their vehicles if that's what they want to use as their fuel for their vehicle. ROUSH has been great to work with. They have done a great job in providing service to us and training. As I mentioned early on, you know, it was not an easy task to get everybody on board. However, because we made it a point of making sure that our staff was going to be comfortable with this, it really did help with the board decision to move forward. And one of the things that we did is that we actually went down to the ROUSH facility and toured that plant so that we had an understanding of the technology and what we were getting into. And then we sent our mechanics down for a day as well, had them tour and learn, you know, and find out the technical aspects of what they were going to be facing with these types of vehicles. So I can't thank them enough for what they've done for us. They've really made moving over to this this choice of using propane has been easy for us because of all of the support that we get from our different partners. So we're going to stay on this path. We expect, pretty much within the next 2 years or so, we'll be close to 100% alternative fuels in our fleet. About the only thing that's really holding us back right now for being 100% is that part of our county is a small island out in Lake Michigan called Beaver Island, and getting fuel out there is a little more problematic for us to do what we really want to do with infrastructure and such is just a little more problematic. So we don't know at this point if we're going to continue to run a gas vehicle over there, or if we're going to try to do some infrastructure and put propane over there as well. If it wasn't for having vehicles on that island, we would definitely be 100% propane probably by the end of 2023, as we continue to replace vehicles that are older, that are in our fleet. So it's been a good partnership for us. It's been a great cost savings for us in times where we were really starting to have to look at pinching some pennies. This made a big difference for us.
Well, Jill, I really appreciate you sharing your story, and I think your comments about the duty cycle challenges where you may have to keep some gasoline buses in your fleet. I think that's so important now, as we have the professionals in this industry have so many choices available, whether it be EV or propane, gasoline. There's not ever going to be a silver bullet that can cover all the bases for every person. So I think this energy mix that we have going now, where propane might excel in some areas and EV might excel in others, I think they're going to all come together for the best solution for fleets. I wanted to, and thank you, Jill. Those are great slides. I appreciate you being on for us this morning. That was really great information. We originally had Lake Tran in Cleveland on the shores of beautiful Lake Erie lined up to speak this morning, but Ben Capel, the CEO of Lake Tran, had to go and try to rescue some funding for the state of Ohio and speak at the legislature down there. I see Ben is on this morning. Ben, I don't want to put you on the spot. If you'd like to, say anything about your experience with propane, feel free to do that. And I'll let you say a few words if you'd like.
Okay, this is Keith Bear. I'm the director of maintenance at Lake Tran. Ben threw me under the bus. In my login wouldn't work, so I'm logged in as him. I don't know if the group wants to hear from another maintenance guy about our experiences with propane. I pulled up a report that I did to our board of directors a little bit. It was a report on diesel versus propane and why we made the decision we did. So I could talk for a couple minutes if you will give me the time. Can you excuse me 1 second? Hey, can you ask them not to run impacts? I'm on a Zoom call. Can you ask them not to run impacts? I'm on a Zoom call. Sorry, I'm here in the shop.
Yeah, no, it's fine, Keith. No worries. Maybe I'll just ask you a few questions. I mean, how many buses are you guys up to there at Lake Tran that run on propane?
Right now we have 38 with 4 more on their way.
Okay. And then what's your total fleet size there?
We have on our cutaways, we have about 104, 105 total buses right now.
Okay, so that's a good percentage of the total fleet that's running on propane. And you guys have been at it for a while now. How long have you had those in service?
We started our process probably in 2014, 2015, gathering information, Ben and I, to see if propane was right for us. We started early with the fire marshal. Contradictory to what Jill did, we went all in. We put a 30,000 gallon fuel tank on our property that we bought. We start off big. Ben doesn't usually go small. Actually, Adam, you had a picture of our facility in one of your slides.
Yep.
So we went through the process. We started with the fire marshal. We did put gas detection in here in our facility, everything before the vehicles were purchased. Unfortunately, our procurement was range-based. Lake Tran, we're a county transit east of Cleveland, Ohio, and our range, we're a little worried about the volume of fuel on our buses. And I'm sorry, Adam, but another vendor was selected at first. And it took us about a year to understand what a mistake we made not going with ROUSH. So we came back to ROUSH. I've known Randy for a long time. I was a young kid here at Lake Tran when I first met Randy. I started here in '92, and he was old then. So we came back to the ROUSH system.
I think Keith, you're done talking now, okay?
I didn't know you're on here. Sorry.
Oh, but no, yeah, I got on just at the right moment, Keith. So I'm going to go mute again so I don't interrupt your wonderful presentation.
That was a different Randy.
But I was, I was old then, Keith. I was old then.
For those of you on the line, Randy Vhoven is the director of transit at ROUSH CleanTech. So he is a bit of an industry legend. For I'm sure many of you on the phone know Randy. So that's just to give a little background there. But continue, Ben. Sorry, that was funny.
That's okay. So we came back to the ROUSH product, and we really don't have very many problems. We experienced issues with spark plugs. Ford's known for spark plug issues. They're blowing out of their cylinder heads or not coming out. And we've experienced that, but the truth being told, our original system on our 2017 buses was running too lean, and I fully feel that the heads were heating up, because on our 2019s that were built with ROUSH systems on, we haven't had an issue with a spark plug yet. Our buses, like I said, we have 38 in our fleet now. Even with COVID, we're doing about 35,000 miles per vehicle per year. We've gone through spark plugs, but we haven't had issues removing them from the ROUSH system. So my board report was inaccurate on that thing, because it's not a fuel related thing. I think it was a lean issue. We buy our propane. We have a contract on the Mount Bellevue price plus delivery. So we started off years ago with diesel, contracting diesel fuel. We've been buying diesel fuel very competitive, and propane we're seeing under $1 on a regular basis. So I looked for our board at comparisons, and I looked at cost per mile. This again is between diesel and propane buses, oil change material costs, environmental impacts, and the issues that we've experienced. I'm showing on the two groups of 12 test buses, I'm showing a 4 cent per mile savings in fuel costs, which is showing about 25% savings for us at Lake Tran. We have about a $1 million fuel budget annually, so it's quite a saving for us. It's worked out good financially for us. Then it was interesting when I got into the oil changes, the cost of materials for oil changes. On an unleaded platform, I have to have a plan. I can't use the prognostics and have the vehicle tell me when to do for an oil change. I have to have a plan. So we treat it like an unleaded chassis running severe duty. And with the oil filter, the oil filter being cheaper, the oil being cheaper and less quantity, even though we're doing it more often based on 35,000 miles, a propane will do 7 times a year. A diesel bus will do a little over 4.5 times a year. It's still saving us about $100 in materials a year on just per bus on just oil changes.
Wow, that's great. Well, Keith, I appreciate you coming on in a pinch here and sharing some information there from Lake Tran. I know you've had great success with propane. And
Yes.
anybody who's on the call, Keith Bear at Lake Tran is by any measuring stick an industry expert. So if you're curious about propane, I'm sure Keith wouldn't mind, taking a phone call from a fellow colleague in the industry. But Keith, we really appreciate you being on, and we certainly understand the assault that is that transit funding is under in Ohio right now. It's definitely worthwhile for Ben to be there with the legislature and try to change some opinions there. So thanks again, Keith. I'm going to turn things over to Andrew, and he's going to kind of cue us in on some funding that's available. Andrew, you want to take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Adam, and thanks everyone, Keith and Jill, for your presentations. Great to hear your success. And there are other fleets in Ohio, from some of the bigger transits like Cleveland RTA to even smaller non-transit shuttle fleets like the Columbus Airport, who've all been running quite a time. So there are opportunities to make the ROI work without grants and incentives, but since there are some grants and incentives, thought we'd just cover them briefly. My goal here is to just touch base on the landscape, and we'd be happy to follow up in more detail with anybody on some of the ins and outs. I'm not going to dwell on the weeds and what I'm about to showcase here. So we've got opportunities on both the federal and the Ohio sides of the coin. On the federal sides of the coin, both Adam and Jill mentioned some tax incentives that are available even for public tax exempt entities. You can go to the U.S. Department of Energy's Alternative Fuel Data Center for the full information, but there is this fuel tax credit. It's 50 cents per gallon on qualified fuels. It works out to 36 cents based on the BTU basis for propane. And then there's also a qualifying infrastructure tax credit for putting in stations. So more details on that available at the Department of Energy site. There's also, obviously, FTA has their Low-No program that many of you are aware of. A lot of the funding in the past went to natural gas and now is going to EV, but there are opportunities for some propane technologies, as Adam mentioned. Right now, based on the current electric grid mix, propane beats EVs on a carbon intensity score. So applications are due soon, basically a month from now, but there may be opportunities for you to apply there for some good propane funding. The US EPA has their Diesel Emission Reduction Act, their DERA funds. It's on the street now. It is open now. There is a March 16th deadline, so it's probably too quick of a turnaround to apply for that. But given the new federal administration's focus on lower emission transportation, there may be more funding coming out of the EPA, DERA program, or other programs like it as we move forward throughout the year. In addition, there's the Department of Energy. Their Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy has a Vehicle Technologies office that regularly posts funding opportunities. Right now, there's nothing really on the street, but we are expecting an imminent release that has funded different vehicle pilot projects for, they have one called New Fleets or New Communities that they've funded the last 2 years that would allow you to get your first 5 vehicles and infrastructure if they offer that again. So be on the lookout. We are expecting opportunities from the DOE side. On the Ohio side, there's the Ohio EPA VW settlement. They've gone through 3 rounds of funding. Their last round opened in summer of 2020 and closed late summer in August. And they awarded those. They are opening the funding for public comment to make some readjustments, but transit has been a decided carve-out category in this, and there's been a number of good transit projects funded. Propane is an eligible technology here. In addition, there's the Ohio EPA Diesel Emission Reduction Grant, DERG. That has posted each fall, so they do expect to post another round of funding in the 4th quarter of 2021, according to their website. Both the VW program and the DERG program, the VW program has a carve out for transits. The DERG program is only eligible entities are transits, but both of the programs restrict the funding to the CMAQ eligible counties that you can see here. So just something to keep in mind, but we have more details on these if you'd like them. In addition to that, obviously you all are probably tied closely into your MPOs. They, beyond CMAQ, have a number of attributable funding sources. I'm just going to highlight MORPC here as an example. Most of you are probably well aware, they have that CMAQ attributable funding. They have things like the 5310 Enhanced Mobility Program for transits and paratransits providing key services. So there is funding through the local agencies as well in Ohio. And that 5310 program, many of you are probably familiar with it, does have the goal of providing additional mobility services, but it is ultimately FTA funding for ADA compliant vehicles and has some good opportunities if you fit the criteria. So just wanted to highlight some of those key programs. Many of you are probably familiar with them already and even received funding, but my contact information is here. We'd be happy to follow up with anyone and assist on the in the weeds details or potential application writing if relevant. So happy to turn it back over to you, Adam, and answer any questions that the attendees had.
Thank you, Andrew. The funding landscape, wow, it's really ramping up, and I feel like we all better buckle up because I think it's only going to get more intense as we go forward, and the new administration kind of lays out their plans for getting some funding out there. We did have a few questions come in, so I wanted to just one of the questions that came in was regarding the Transit, the Ford Transit chassis that's really becoming pretty popular in the paratransit. So we've been asked to develop our product on this chassis. It's something we're definitely looking into. I don't have any details to share as of right now on that, but yeah, something we'll certainly look at in the future. Another one that came in was the top 5 transit operators and the quantity of ROUSH vehicles they're using. I just wanted to share this slide real quick to kind of answer that question. You can see here we've got, and these numbers are a little bit outdated, but this is a piece of literature that we put out, I think, last year. And you can see here Delaware Transit Corporation, Newcastle, Delaware, with over 260 vehicles, Broward County Transit, Flint Mass Transit in Flint, Michigan, San Diego Metropolitan Transit at 138 vehicles, and then the transit agency in Detroit, Michigan with over 115 there. So you can see here where we're clustered at in the US, Florida, California, Oregon, Michigan, the Midwest. But we do have some pretty good volume out there on the road. So it's not like we're just running, 5 buses here, 5 buses there. We do have some significant quantity of vehicles that are out there and really working well. As we've heard from Jill and Keith today, these buses are being relied on every day and really doing a good job and saving some money while reducing emissions. So I don't see any other questions in the chat box there. Does anybody on the call have any other questions? We'd be happy to answer those at this time. And if not, this is being recorded, as we mentioned a few times. If you'd like to go back and watch this recording, and please, by all means, feel free to follow up with Jill or Keith at Lake Tran and Andrew at Clean Fuels Ohio or myself at ROUSH CleanTech if you'd like more information.
Yeah, and I would just want to add a quick additional note that renewable propane is starting to be produced in the US. So, transitioning today provides you that lower carbon intensity score, but there is a pathway longer term to get to zero emissions through propane. So this is not an either EV to get to zero or, propane for more efficient operations in the way that Keith and Jill said. There is an opportunity to get fully to zero on propane itself going forward. So I just wanted to note that for folks in case that factors into the calculus.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Andrew. The renewable propane is really coming on board quickly, and the Biden-Harris administration released their, it was from committee, the Clean Future Act this week. Which is really kind of going to provide the roadmap for their policy going forward with regards to environmental. ambitions that they have, and renewable fuels is going to be something that's going to play a big factor in that. So thanks again, Andrew, for bringing that up. But yeah, renewable propane, we have more information on our ROUSHCleanTech.com about that subject. And the Propane Education and Research Council also has some really good information on renewable propane. So great, great future with that fuel source. So I'd like to thank everybody again for tuning in today, and I look forward to working with some of the participants. But that's all we have, and thanks again.